Just so some of you know, local government's going on at the same time as P&E, so some of the members are having to go over there. That's why they're leaving their proxies. So I know we're being recorded, and I don't want people to think that senators aren't here. They're just trying to be in two places at the same time.
Okay, we've called the meeting to order. Do we have any, we don't have any pages here that we need to introduce today, do we? Okay, wow. All right, well then we're going to begin. Yes, Senator Obenchain, would you like to be our designated page for the day? Okay, so we have not too complicated a docket, and for the members of the committee, you will be happy to know that there are almost no bills on this docket that you have not seen before. So with that, we are going to ask that those who are here to testify be respectful of the time constraint and follow our awesome new technology system that allows us to have a little light, and so that every side has an equal amount of time and a fair amount of time, and I think it's 5 minutes, right, Meg? Each side gets 5 minutes on the bill. Okay, so as a couple of administrative things that we have to take care of on the front end, Senate Bill 485, which is Senator Cosgrove's bill that deals with certain property exempt from taxation, needs to be re-referred to Finance. So I'd ask for that motion. Okay. So it's been moved and properly seconded. The bill be re-referred to Finance. All in favor, please vote aye. Okay, the bill's. Okay.
12 ayes, 0 no, or no nays.
Okay, so the bill's now referred to Finance. The next administrative task, and this happens every year succeeding an election when we have first reference constitutional amendments introduced before the Privileges and Elections Committees. It is customary that we hold them for a year because the rules require that we have one intervening election between the time they're first heard and passed and then heard a second time and passed. And so we have SJ1, SJ2, SJ3, SJ5, SJ8, SJ9, SJ12, SJ25, SJ27, SJ34, SJ39, and SJ51. I think most patrons introduce them understanding that they would not have a need to present, that they'd be carried over. A couple of the patrons have contacted me already, so they're not here. But I would just ask for a motion that those bills be carried over.
Madam Chair, I'll make that motion.
Okay, motion's been made and properly seconded that those bills or those SJs just referred to in a block be carried over in a block. All in favor, please vote aye. Okay.
Ayes 14, no 0.
Okay. Okay, moving on. The next section of bills that I want to take up, because I know we have a number of people who are here and I don't want to make you wait till the end, are our redistricting bills. We have sort of 4 categories of bills. We have criteria bills, we have interim redistricting commission bills, we have a referendum, and then we have one criterion process. So there are really 4 categories, and I'm going to take them up just for purposes of economy in that way, although I do have Senator Obenchain who's sitting here in front of me. So do you mind, Senator Obenchain, if we dispose of these really pretty quickly? Okay. I'm going to start with the criteria bills. And the first, we have 4 criteria bills. We have SB 106, which is Senator Suderline's bill. We have SB 752, which is Senator Sturdivant's bill. We have SB 740, which is Senator Howell's bill. And we have SB 718, which is Senator Chase's bill. If possible, I would like to report out one criteria bill as one vehicle to leave the committee. And so if it's possible that we could hear all of those bills at one time, that would be great. And we'll start with you, Senator Suderline.
Thank you, Madam Chair. In Privileges and Elections, I have SB 106. This is a bill this committee has seen before. We've passed it out of the full Senate, and unfortunately didn't get a hearing on the other side as they weren't willing to consider redistricting legislation at the time. What the bill does is it requires that the lines that we draw for congressional districts and state legislative districts have a compactness standard. It's similar to the same way that years ago we decided that there would be population standards. We would not have greater deviations than necessary, and this seeks to do the same thing with the compactness model. It doesn't say we have to follow a specific standard, but it sets us in the direction that we're going to in the same way that we've adopted for population. And every 10 years, the General Assembly then decides what the best standard is for the population deviation, and we do our best to make sure that we hit that. And if we don't, we try again until we do. That's what this would do, but for compactness. Some of you know I represent a district that includes 8 wonderful localities, but only 100% of 2 of them. And in those 6 counties that I have split, I get to represent part of the county seat in them often, but not even the whole county seat. So even my towns are split. So I think this would help my district's future incarnation and other districts as well, and allow us to better represent our constituents rather than, you know, going to a bar association meeting and having half of the attorneys in the room as your constituents, and the chamber where a third, and so forth with every group. So I hope it pleases the committee.
I think it does. We've reported this bill out before and have similarly treated Senator Howell's bill. And also, in addition to that, we have Senator Chase and Senator Sturtevant. But I'm just going to ask Senator Howell if you would like to present your criteria bill, and then we could take it all up at one time. Would that be okay with you?
Sure. Could I ask a question?
Absolutely. Yeah. And just for clarification, Senator Howell's bill, Senator Chase's bill, and Senator Sturtevant's bill are slightly broader, and we'll have an opportunity, obviously, for you all who are in the audience to speak. But it's slightly broader than Senator Suderline's bill that is restricted just to compactness. Go ahead,
Well,
Janet.
my question is for staff, is the senator's bill on compactness the same language as ours have on compactness?
Madam Chair, Senator Howell, no. The compactness language in Senator Suderline's bill is a little different than the compactness language in 740, 718, and the 752.
And I would just, if I may, what I'd like to do is in the past, we sent 2 criteria bills over, and I know in the past they weren't heard, but just for economy and efficiency, I feel like it would be better if we agreed on 1 criteria bill and had 1 vehicle leave, so at least we have 1. So,
Madam Chair, and
yes.
I've got to go to local government, but forgive me if I'm wrong, Meg, but it seems to me that Senator Suderline's bill is a little more specific on compactness, whereas Senator Howell's is a little less specific, but also addresses other subjects.
That's true.
Madam Chair, Senator Deeds, the language is actually pretty similar for the compactness issue. Senator Howell's has a little bit more language. It's not more or less specific, though. And then Senator Howell's bill does include other criteria to be considered when redistricting, whereas Senator Suderline's only focuses on the compactness issue.
Okay. Okay. All right, Senator Howell, would you like to just briefly describe your bill, which we already know we like?
Which is actually, we're
Right.
co-chief patrons with the chairman. This is a bill we've done the last, I believe, 3 years, and it has other criteria in addition to compactness, and ours has a very specific compactness definition that was put together by One Virginia 2021. But we also have respect for political boundaries, population, racial and ethnic considerations, contiguity, and communities of interest are included in ours. So it is a broader bill.
Okay. Is Senator Sturtevant here? Okay. Senator Sturtevant? Senator Sturtevant, we are presenting your criteria bill. It's the same bill that you have, Senator Chase has, and Senator Howell has. She just spoke to it. Would you like to say a word on behalf of your bill? And then we're going to hear from
Thank you, Madam
the
Chair.
members of the audience.
This is a bill, obviously, that this committee has heard. I won't add to it, other than I think this is an important time to end gerrymandering in Virginia, and this is a common sense, practical way to make that happen.
Okay, great. Okay, so I'm going to ask for members of the audience who would like to speak in favor of the bill. Please come forward and welcome.
Yes, Jim Turpin, representing West Virginia 2021, and we are in favor of the block. Enhanced criteria are a step in the right direction, and as a result, we support any configuration you make of these to send forward.
Thank you very much. Anybody else? Good afternoon.
Yes, Madam Chair, members of the committee, I'm Mike Polychrones with the Virginia Municipal League, and we're also in support of the whole compactness issue, and especially when it comes to keeping localities together in one district so they have one representative they can call on.
Our constituents like that too. Thank you. Anybody else? Okay, is there anybody who wishes to speak in opposition to the criteria
Madam Chair,
bill in front of us? Yes, sir. Senator.
I'll wait till you. Anybody else speaking?
Nope, I don't think anybody's opposed. So you're up.
I want to look at these very carefully. I want to make it plain. I see what we're trying to do. But as far as I'm concerned, Madam Chair, if you will go into my office, I have on my wall a picture of 9 African Americans in 1864 Reconstruction time. And I'm hearing what Democrats are saying as far as impacting districts. Make it plain, my main concern, I'm 71 years old, my main concern, I don't want black kids 25 years from now come in saying, there were some blacks back then, way back there 25, 30 years ago. So my concern is to make sure that I look out for my folks. I'm talking about black folks. I understand about the redistricting sign, that's fine. But I'm not supporting anything to weaken the black cause because mainly the Democrats who are saying that they are compacting the black areas, just want to separate them. And I asked the question to one of my colleagues on the Democratic side. In North Virginia, I said, we have a district that is heavily white, strong Democrats. Have you considered taking 20% of that and put it somewhere else to make it another district? Madam Chair, I'm talking about for Democrats now, and not speaking for y'all. Because the Democrats are saying that we have opportunity to pick up more chairs. I don't have no problem with that. But I'm not going to support any bill to weaken black folks. I'm not going to do it because my concern is to make sure it's being fair, as I'm concerned about those Democratic districts that are majority whites. Democrats are not saying anything about weakening those to create another district, as if they're concerned that all black folks vote Democrats. Whatever coming for me, I want to make sure that my folks have a place at the table 40 years from now. I'm not interested in drawing no district for all Democrats or looking out for any white folks. I love you to death, but I'm here to make sure. I'm 71 years old. I want to make sure that when I leave here 40 years from now, my grandkids come up here and saying, there are some black folks in this General Assembly. If you ain't gonna talk about that, I'm not gonna support it. I don't care which party it belongs to. Amen.
Okay. Thank you. Is there anybody else who wishes to speak to the bill? Is there any further discussion? Senator Eben.
Madam Chair, just to follow up on Senator Spruill's point, I hadn't considered this. Do we know, is there any kind of, I don't know if there's any kind of research or expert here to know if this would impact racial majority black districts in any significant way?
Is there anybody here? You can,
an
absolutely,
expert.
since it's one of your bills. Or yours is one of the bills.
I'm not claiming to be an expert on that, but since I did get to present this previously and I had similar questions, what I pointed out at the time was that the Voting Rights Act, being federal legislation, supersedes this. So compactness and population deviation, all those things, if my bill went in, would be at the top of the list, except for the federal legislation and federal court decisions. And so the work of the federal judiciary and Department of Justice on this subject would still ensure compliance with the Voting Rights Act here in Virginia on drawing districts.
Okay. And Meg, if I could just ask you for, as a point of clarification for Senator Sproul, this may help make you more comfortable with Meg, if you'd like to read that relevant section that I think would address his concern.
Madam Chair, in Senator Howell's bill and then the identical ones to that, there is a subsection C, that does require that the districts are going to be drawn in accordance with the requirements of all applicable federal and state laws and judicial decisions. That includes the Equal Protection Clause of the Constitution, the VRA, or the Voting Rights Act, and any other laws that address racial and ethnic fairness. So I believe that that will be taken into consideration and should address Senator Sproul's concerns.
Madam Chair, if I could follow up.
Yes, Senator Edmund.
Senator Sudalan, you referenced the Federal Voting Rights Act, but I know at the federal level, nothing's to be taken for granted with the Voting Rights Act or any other legislation protecting communities of interest that might be minority communities of interest. So is there anything that's going to protect that if this passes and federal law doesn't? I mean, federal law is not the same as it is? Just case law, anything else?
Madam Chairman,
Senator Howell.
there's the Constitution, equal protection is also referenced in here.
Oh, thank you.
Okay, is there a motion?
Madam Chair, if the patrons of those four bills, Senator Sudaline, Sturdivant, Howe, and Chase, don't have an objection, I would make the motion that we roll those into Senator Sudaline's bill and make them all chief co-patrons.
Okay.
Madam Chair, if I can slightly amend my motion for that motion to include compactness criteria with Senator Sudaline's bill. Does that make sense, Meg? How do I got to word it? Okay, so, Madam Chair, my motion was correct, to focus
Okay.
strictly on the compactness of the bill
Okay.
itself.
So the motion's been made to
Madam Chair,
roll the bills in. Yes, Senator Sproul.
could he explain to me now that could he explain to me what he mean by compacting? What is he talking about?
Senator Reeves, or
Sure.
maybe Senator Suderline, since, but go ahead.
Sure. Senator Sproul, what he's talking about, it still takes into effect what he had mentioned about the Voters' Rights Act and everything else, but I'll give you a good example. In my own district, I'm barely in my district by 3 houses. If I walk to the end of my street, I'm out. So, and my neighbors can't vote for me, right, because they missed me by that much. So what it's going to do is it's going to follow natural boundaries, roads, subdivisions, all those sort of things, so we don't have these districts that look like amoebas, right, where we're trying to just pack it all with the political subdivisions aren't going to matter as much as we have compactness.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, the motion's been made and properly seconded. All in favor of the motion?
So the first one's to vote, roll them?
Okay. Okay. So all in favor of rolling the bills together, please vote aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. So it's a motion. It was unanimous to roll them together, and now the bill is properly before us. Roll together. All in favor? Yes, Senator Howell.
I wonder if Senator Suderline would mind if the language on compactness that was in our bill, which is the one that Virginia 2021 preferred, if we could amend your bill to reflect that language. It gets at the same point, but it's slightly differently worded.
Meg, would you like to? They're not very different, Senator Suderline. Meg, if you'd like to explain, if you can.
Madam Chair, Senator Suderline, the difference with the language is it's a little hard to, okay, I'll just read this. Each legislative and congressional district shall be composed of compact territory, such that nearby areas of population are not bypassed for more distant populations. That's a little different than yours. Districts shall not be oddly shaped or have irregular or contorted boundaries unless justified because the district adheres to political subdivision lines or well-recognized communities of interest. That last little piece, the lines or well-recognized community of interest, is a little different than yours. And then the rest of the language is the same.
I prefer my language, but it's the will of the committee to decide what you all want to do. I'm not a member of this committee. I like the language that I introduced, but I've defended previously.
Madam Chair,
Yes, Senator Reeves.
I would like to see this bill make the light of day. I'm
Okay.
afraid if we change it the other way, I don't know that it would. So I would, again, renew my motion, but I'd like to hear what my colleague says.
I was just going to suggest that I preferred the language that you and Senator Howell had because it did mention communities of interest. And I think since it's a federal principle that's being accepted now, but we don't know the long-term outlook for that, that would add that assurance. And I think that I don't think people would vote against it because of it. So I'd hope that you would consider that language. If for some reason the other body amended it back, we could deal with that then.
Okay. Okay. Is there a motion? You want to make the motion?
Yeah, I would move that we conform Senator Suderline's bill as the vehicle with the language as found in the Chairman and Senator Howell's bill.
With respect to compactness.
With respect to compactness.
Okay, so the motion's been made and properly seconded. All in favor of the motion to conform that compactness language, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? No. Okay, will you record your noes? I'm going to vote no to get it. Okay.
Ayes 6, noes 8.
Okay, so it goes with your original compactness language. Okay, so the bill is now properly before us. The criteria bill is rolled together. Is there a motion?
Move to report.
Okay, Senator Howell moves to report. Senator Reeves seconds. The bill be reported. All in favor, please vote aye. Opposed? Okay.
Ayes 13, noes 1.
Okay. Thank you, members of the committee and patrons. The second category of bills is Senator Lucas's Senate Bill 19 and Senator Howell and Senator Vogel's Senate Bill 598. We are chief co-patrons on that. So Senator Lucas, if you would like to come forward and tell us how much we love your bill.
Thank you, Thank you, Madam Chair.
It's ours together.
As you know, I've been telling you this 20-year story about how why I keep introducing bills of this nature. And I won't take you through that diatribe today. I just want to.
And we keep passing it.
Right, I just can't get out the other side. But the committee has seen this bill before, as you've stated, and this is the same bill as Senate Bill 846, which passed out of this committee last year, 12-2, and passed the full Senate 26-14. I think I'm gonna kill the bill talking about it, but it's cold. It was PBI'd in the House and a P&E subcommittee. This is a good bill for several reasons. It includes the same commission membership structure and redistricting criteria like the independent commission bills that were offered and passed in the Senate last year by Senator Sturtevant and Senator Hanger. It also addresses a real problem. In 2015, in the congressional redistricting case, the federal court ordered a redraw of the 3rd Congressional District, but the General Assembly was not able to get the job done. So as a result, the taxpayers were forced to spend over $80,000 to pay a special master to draw the new congressional plan, and then pay out much more in attorney's fees to the lawyers for additional hearings in the case. There are still 2 cases pending right now in state and federal courts that would result in court-ordered redraws. Could I just get the attorney to come up and finish speaking to this bill?
Well, we can,
My voice is not
because
gonna-
Senator Howell and I have the same bill, Senator Lucas, so you've done an awesome job every year, and you did a great job while
I
you're
felt
sick.
better the last 2 times.
So we're happy to finish the presentation.
Thank you.
I will just say briefly, because again, this committee has heard this before, but just to clarify, what this bill does is it's a remedial redistricting commission bill that is a commission bill, but in a very narrow circumstance where a court has found that the districts are improper for some reason, and rather, as you said, than have it go to a magistrate, this would allow it to go to a commission just for purposes of resolving with a remedy. And this committee has obviously heard this bill before and has passed the bill before. Senator Howell, if you would like to speak to it, because you are a chief co-patron. It says you are online. Okay, maybe, okay. Maybe we have it backwards. Anyway, so is there any member of the committee who has a question? All right, so before I'm going to ask anybody in the audience who wishes to speak in favor of this bill.
Yes, ma'am. Jim Turpin, 1 Virginia, 2021. To emphasize something Senator Lucas talked about, there is a federal case that will be coming back very soon, the Bethune-Hill case, that could result in the need for this interim commission. And at the same time, if you look that the Supreme Court is hearing the case in North Carolina and Maryland, that could be another incidence where this will be needed. This is much more of a realistic. This is needed much more now than previously, because this is something that is coming that we're going to have to deal with, and it's a way to do it, and it will also show that the commission process can and will work here in Virginia. But it's still the prerogative of the General Assembly for the final up or down on the districts. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Right, and if I may, members of the committee, just to add that one critical component, because I think some people misunderstand that at the end, at the conclusion of that process, it is still left to the General Assembly to make the final call. And so, is there anybody who wishes to speak in opposition to the bill? Okay, motion's been made. Motion's been made, report, and is there a second? And motion's been properly seconded. All in favor of, well, actually, first, we neglected something. We need to make a motion to roll those bills together. Okay, so the motion's been made to roll them together and properly seconded. All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Okay, now the bills are properly before us with a motion to report and properly seconded. All in favor, please vote aye. Okay.
Ayes 9, noes 5.
Okay, great. The third bill that we have before us is Senator Lewis's bill. This is Senate Bill 427. This is slightly different. This is a combination of both criteria as well as process. I don't know if Senator Lewis. Okay, then maybe we'll take that back for the moment. And then the final bill that we have in the redistricting block is Senator Mason's bill, which is Senate Bill 534. Welcome.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, Madam Chairman. This is the nonpartisan redistricting referendum bill. We've heard this before as well. Last year when we talked about it, we were talking about the polling, and someone had suggested I had a great public policy group at the Wasson Center and Christopher Newport. I go back and talk to them, but there are all kinds of polls. Lake Research came up with 74% of people were against partisan redistricting. Then there's another, Mary Washington, 73% against improper partisan redistricting. So they just worded differently. Interesting, Christopher Newport's poll was in the mid to upper 50s until properly explained, and then in the 60s. So this is just the opportunity, Madam Chairman and members of the committee, instead of having 1,000 people answer the question, we could have millions when you go to the poll in November to determine whether or not that the citizens of the Commonwealth think it's a good idea.
Okay, I'm just going to clarify for members of the committee that it's true, Senator Mason, that this is a referendum bill that is advisory in nature only. Yes. So this bill would go to a referendum to the public. We would have the opportunity to survey what the voters of the Commonwealth of Virginia wish to have happen with respect to redistricting reform in the Commonwealth of Virginia, or how they'd like redistricting to be carried out. We would have that information, and then it would be simply left to the legislature to do what it is we're doing right here, which is make a decision.
Yes, Madam Chair.
My only concern with that, and I would just raise this with you, is my preference would be that the legislature just act, because I think we probably have a sense of how people feel about it. The other concern I have is just for purposes of the committee, it does have a fiscal impact of, I think, just under, it's 175,000, I believe.
158.
Is it 158?
Yes,
okay.
But
well, that's better than what I have.
expensive couple of lines, yes, ma'am.
Yeah. So that would be my only concern.
Yeah, Madam Chairman, you're dead on, and the wording is between on line 17 to 19.
Okay. So is there anybody in the audience who wishes to speak in favor of the referendum?
Madam Chair, members of the committee, Jim Turpin, 1 Virginia 2021. This is the proposal that's been put in honor of Senator Miller every year, who proposed it and was your predecessor. And there's a companion bill in the House that has an accompanying appropriations amendment. But we very much favor this and you're right, it comes back to the General Assembly, but this is just advisory in nature because we're not an initiative and referendum state. Thank you.
Well, if I may, I so loved Senator Miller and his efforts that we actually embarked on together a long time ago in an effort to undertake redistricting reform. My only concern with the bill is that it unfortunately just kicks the can further down. Right, it's time to make a decision for the legislature to act, but that would be my only bias. Otherwise, I'm obviously in favor of having the public weigh in, and wouldn't want to stand in the way of the public weighing in, but I'd much prefer us not to spend the money, not to put it off, not to have the referendum, and just have the legislature make a decision. So with that, is there anybody? Yes, Senator Sproul.
Are these things working?
Yes, sir. If you hit your button, it should work.
It's on. The question, thank you. I got it. To the question to the Senate. Yes, sir. Public, and the public votes on it. And then when it comes back, who would be this commission you're talking about?
Well, Madam Chairman, Senator Sproul, the chairman is exactly right. It's advisory in nature, and then the General Assembly would move to designate what the commission would look like. And the chairman is exactly right in that, this is a referendum when we could make that move today. It has been a pleasure. It was a pleasure for me to work with Senator Miller on these efforts as well. But this is just trying to get a good sense of millions of people that come to the polls in November to tell us what they believe and what they think on the issue.
Madam Chair, second question.
Yes, Senator Sproul.
Knowing that this bill is rather lengthy here, so I'm trying to wonder what would it look like as far as when citizens go and vote. So what, in a short version, what will it say that they are voting on? Because I know it won't, this long list, it won't be on the ballot.
No, that's
so
right.
I'm concerned with what would it say for citizens to see what they're voting on?
Madam Chairman, Senator Sproul, should there be an independent redistricting commission established in Virginia for the purpose of drawing the district maps for the House of Delegates, Senate of Virginia, and the United States House of Representatives? Yes or no?
Madam Chairman,
Yes, Senator Sproul.
why can't you say should there be independent, and if that passed, why can't you say on the bill that an independent commission and this is what it will look like? See, you understand what I'm saying? I put what you're saying, but she's independent. Then once the citizens of Virginia would have spoken, and then you have this independent commission, I said, no, they don't look like me. No. You got too many Democrats on that commission. You got too many Republicans on that commission. So why can't we know in advance in this bill saying that independents make up of this group, that group, and then when I go and vote, I'm saying, who can be on that commission? Oh, this kind, that kind. I feel much better.
Understood. Madam Chairman, Senator Sproul, just for simplicity's sake, Madam Chairman, I agree. I'm not the biggest fan of referendum in the world, but I think this would give us clear guidance, although a lot of us feel like we have some already. And I think just for simplicity's sake, you wouldn't lay it out on the ballot. That would be the work of this committee here.
Well, thank you.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Madam Chairman,
Okay. Yes.
I very much appreciate the senator's efforts, but I think it's horrible public policy that when we stop listening to our constituents face to face and wait for them to go through in a process like this. So I will vote against it.
Okay, is that a motion?
Sure felt like one.
Yeah, it sure did, didn't it? Okay, the motion's been made and properly seconded that it feels like a motion to pass to PBI. Okay, and there's a substitute motion. Senator Eben. Okay. Substitute motion is to report. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, so the motion is properly before us. It's been made and seconded to report Senate Bill 534. All in favor, please vote aye.
Ayes 6, noes 8.
Thank you, Madam Chairman.
Thank you. And I'm sorry, it's not for lack of support of the underlying mission here. I just want us to actually act, not do a referendum. So thank you. Okay, so now.
Madam Chairman,
Yes.
having voted on the prevailing side, I would move that we bring back up Senate Bill 19.
Okay. Senate Bill 19. Okay. Having voted on the prevailing side by which we passed Senate Bill 19, he's made the motion. It's been properly seconded that we reconsider. All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, the bill is properly before us. Senator Ruff?
Senator Reeves.
Madam
Yes.
Chair.
Senator
Madam Chair,
Reeves? Yes.
I would request that pass that bill by for the year. PBI.
Madam Chair?
Okay. Okay, so the motion's been made. Pass it by indefinitely.
Madam Chair?
Yeah, Louise is not here. It's our bill.
Madam Chair.
Yes,
I
Senator
believe you-
Reeves.
I believe you rolled two other bills, or at least one other.
Yeah,
bill
we
into
did.
that.
I'm going to allow it since two of us are here. Okay.
Madam Chair?
Yes.
Speaking on the motion.
Yes, Senator Sproul.
Now, let me be me for a minute, which I'm always that way. He could have done the same thing while the son was sitting right there. She was sitting right there. He was right there. Why he didn't do it then? You wait until she leave out the chamber, and then you got one more Republican vote up. The idea is because your idea is to kill all Democrats' bill because the way we voted on the floor about an hour or so ago. So now, that bill, when she was here, you're going to bring it back up. So the idea now, if the goal is to kill all Democrats' bill, why are we here? Just tell us to leave and y'all just vote them all down.
Hey, Senator Sproul, if I may, that's my bill too.
But you're not yes. Yeah, but you know you can bring yours back. So the key is this right here. I don't care about mine. But the key was this, if the goal is for the Republicans to kill all Democratic bills because you didn't get what you want on the floor, then tell us to stay home and just get all of our buildings. Let's kill them. Let's kill them. That's what you're trying to do. But at least you would have given her the courtesy of why she was here to do it in front of her face. You're going down the wrong path. Do what you got to do. We're going to fix it 2 years from now. That's me talking. You can't outvote me in my district.
Okay. Okay, the motion is made properly before us. It's been made and seconded to pass Senate Bill 19, which is Senator Lucas' bill, and my bill, which was rolled in together, Senate Bill 598, and it was to pass it by indefinitely. Is that the motion? Okay. Okay.
Madam Chairman, weren't there 3 bills involved?
It was only 2.
I'm sorry. Okay.
Yes. Mine and Senator Lucas's. Okay. All in favor of passing the bill by indefinitely, please vote aye. Okay.
Aye 7, no 7.
Okay, aye 7, no 7. The bill fails. Motion fails. Okay, so now the bill is properly before us. Okay, the bill is still before us. Now the motion is to report, right? No? Right, it's the motion is for us to pass the bill, right? Okay, now, the bill is still in the body. The motion is, shall the bill be reported? Is there a motion to report the bill? It's going to be the same vote. Okay, Senator Adam moves that we report the bill. The bill's seconded. All in favor of reporting the bill, please vote aye.
Seven ayes, 7 noes.
Bill fails. Okay, so the bill fails. Okay. That leaves Senate Bill 427, which is Senator Lewis's bill.
Madam Chair, members of the committee.
Senator Lewis.
I won't try not to trespass too much on your time. I know this is an issue that this committee obviously is intimately familiar with. The sand continues to shift under our feet on this issue. The courts, I think, have made it clear which direction they're headed in. This bill embodies, Madam Chair, members of the committee, the Iowa method of nonpartisan redistricting. It is the gold standard of nonpartisan redistricting. It has been in place in Iowa since 1980. And to walk you briefly through the bill, it uses the Division of Legislative Services, our Division of Legislative Services, to prepare maps after the census in preparation for the redistricting process. The Legislative Services Division is given some instructions in the bill, obviously population requirements, contiguous and compact districts, not oddly shaped or irregular, and also boundaries shall coincide with boundaries of political subdivisions to the extent it's not in conflict with the other parts of the bill. And also, all of this is done with a backdrop and an acknowledgement of our constitutional obligations and also our obligations under federal law. The purpose of favoring a political party or incumbent or other person or group is strictly forbidden. Purpose of augmenting or diluting voting strengths based on language or racial minority groups, obviously completely forbidden. Use of political data is also forbidden in this. That includes the address of an incumbent, political affiliation of voters, previous election results, and demographic information other than just population figures. The bill also creates an advisory commission composed of 5 members. One is appointed by the Senate Majority Leader, one by the Senate Minority Leader, one by the House Minority, one by the Senate House Majority Leader, and then they get together and they, by majority vote, select a 5th member who is their chairman. This advisory commission, as the name implies, serves purely in an advisory capacity should legislative services have a question that is not clearly, for which there is not a clearly applicable guideline. The process. There are 3 bites at the apple provided for in this. Legislative Services provides 1 set of maps. They provide them to the chambers. They are not amendable. They cannot be amended. Should either the House or the Senate vote them down, they have to provide Legislative Services with their reasoning, the problems they have with that particular set of maps. They come back with a second set of maps, again, not amendable. Again, if they vote it down, they have to provide the rationale and reasoning for it. If that fails on the third time, they come back and they are in amendable form. The Senate or the House can offer amendments to the map. I will point out, just by virtue of information, in Iowa, they have since 1980 or 81 never rejected a legislative services map. So it continues to appear to work there. So it's straightforward. I know it's something that you're all familiar with. I think the time is really upon us. You know, we dust off the Virginia way at campaign time. To me, there's nothing more emblematic of the Virginia way than adopting a fair and nonpartisan means of redistricting. And I think that's what this bill does. Again, it is time tested out in Iowa. It works. They have competitive elections out there. And I think also it goes a long way in restoring confidence in these troubled times that the public has in us as elected officials. And by the way, I have absolutely no idea what this would mean for the 6th Senate District. I haven't got a clue. But I think it's important to do. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So the committee has heard the bill. You're somewhat familiar with it if you remember it from last year. I was going to ask if anybody would like to speak to it, but Senator Spruill, you have your hand up. Would you like to make a comment?
The first question.
Sure.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The first question, you said at one point about a speaker and what have you, the 5.
Yes, sir.
Now, of the 5, since the Republican control both houses, and you can let them 1 point now, I want to make sure who will make sure of that 5 that somebody can look at our interests. Number one, because mainly this thing is drawn, in my personal opinion, is drawn because, again, let me use the word Democrats are concerned about how the African-American vote is impacted. They want to impact that. Mainly concerned African-Americans. That's what you're getting at, sure. Personally. So knowing that, so who can, I say that on that, what you're putting that, they protect our interests. Because the Black Caucus, remember we have talking now across this state from the Democrats. I can't speak from the Republicans, from Democrats. They were concerned about packing us together now. And I have no problem in what we're trying to do, but I want to make sure who would be on that committee you're talking about that will look out for our interests, because I don't trust nobody picked from both of those houses, whether they be Democrat or Republican. I want to make sure somebody's on that committee that looks like me to protect the black folks.
Right, and I certainly understand your concerns, Senator Spruill. First of all, the commission has no real power. It is an advisory commission, and it can only come into action if Legislative Services has a question about their obligations under the code, and there is not a clearly identifiable standard that is set out for them. I think this bill is fairly detailed. I think that situation where they would have to turn to the advisory commission is pretty unusual. Also, this does not do away with United States constitutional requirements, nor does it do away with any voting rights requirements or any other acts of Congress in regard to how we draw our districts. So those concepts cannot be superseded by this bill and are still going to be in play. The one who actually draws the maps is Legislative Services, the folks we get to do our bills and help us with our bills. They're the ones that are going to take that population data and draw these maps.
Madam Chairman, second question.
Yeah, Senator Spruill.
The legislative service you're talking about, will we know, because I don't know, in the Senate, I don't know exactly who they are. Will we know, I want to make sure the legislative service, I want to make sure that you don't have too many Democrats, too many Republicans, too many whites, too many this. I want to know exactly if they're going to draw it. From look at it, I want to know who they are.
Right. Well, first of all, as far as I know, I couldn't tell you who these folks are that staff our committees. I couldn't tell you whether they're Republicans or Democrats. Secondly, they have a pretty narrowly defined, this bill's pretty tight in what they're supposed to consider and not consider in drawing these maps. And again, this is something that's been in effect in at least one state with great success for about 30 years, more than 30 years. And again, with the federal requirements and the federal protections that are out there, I understand, believe me, I understand your concerns and I'm sympathetic to your concerns, but I think they're well covered either by the bill or by the Constitution or by existing federal law.
Madam Chairman.
Senator Spruill.
Let me tell you and those who are out in the audience my concern. I believe what we're doing is honest and right, sir. But my concern is this. I was put here to make sure that all Virginians get a fair shake. And in this state, the black community have not gotten a fair shake for all of Virginia. And all I'm saying is, if you want to draw the map, I agree with it. But I'm saying, but I want to make sure that this time, whether it's yea or nay, I want to make sure that there's somebody at the table to make sure that the black community was treated fairly. It may not get what they want, but I want to be satisfied that somebody was there to make sure that, hey, we didn't get what we want, but it was done fair. And so you're going to have, that was my only concern.
Sure.
You were not here earlier, I said to these people that on my wall, I got 9 blacks from 1864. And I'm saying that I'm concerned that if we draw it the wrong way or not have the people who can be fair, my concern was 30 years from now, there'll be no blacks up here. And my grandkids can say, there used to be a blacks up there 35, 40 years ago. All I want to do is make sure it's done fair, and I want to know who they are. No, I don't trust no Democrats. No, no, no. I know what they want to do. They want to add more Democratic seats. I'm not concerned about that. And I don't trust no Republicans. You know that. So my concern is just to make sure that every hire is done, that someone there says, Spruill, it was done fairly. Then I would shut up. I'm looking out for all Virginia, and especially my folks as well.
No, Madam Chair, Senator Spruill, certainly appreciate that. Certainly, again, appreciate your concerns, but I really do believe that those interests are best served by, again, the protections that are already in place, but also by adopting this particular plan for nonpartisan redistricting.
Madam Chair,
Senator Reeves.
I just have a question for the patron.
Yes, sir.
Can you take yourself down to line 148 to 49, and it says, for the purpose of augmenting or diluting the voting strength of a language? Do you mean like if you're Russian or if you're Greek or of a categorized racial minority group? Is that what they're speaking to?
I think that's what they're getting at, Senator Reeves.
Just different dialects, so they're not, there's no prejudice against a different.
That's my understanding of its intent, Senator Reeves.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, is there anybody in the audience who wishes to speak in favor of the bill?
Madam Chair, Madam Chair, Jim Turpin, Virginia 2021. I would just note, in the time that Iowa has done this, and Iowa is not Virginia, it's a different set of circumstances, but the rate of litigation and amount of litigation that has resulted in Iowa is substantially less than we've had. And if people are concerned about the litigation around redistricting, this is a definite step in the right direction to reduce litigation going forward. Thank you.
Madam Chair.
Senator Reeves.
I'd also like to say that in support of my colleagues' points, Iowa is 91% white, has square counties, and has never been subject to the Voters' Rights Act. So I'd like to put that out there as well.
Is there anybody in the audience who wishes to speak in opposition to the Iowa bill, Iowa plan, as we affectionately refer to it? Okay, is there any further discussion in the committee? Senator Reeves did make the distinction between Virginia and Iowa, and that is true. Yes, anybody else? Senator Reeves.
Madam Chair, well, I think it's a very valid point what you're working on, Senator Lewis. I don't think we're quite there yet. We've been talking about it for a few years, but I would make the motion to gently PBI the bill.
Okay. Senator Edmund. Okay. Substitute motion is to report the bill. Is there a second? Okay, the motion's been made and properly seconded. To report the bill, all in favor, please vote aye.
Ayes 7, no 7.
Same result as last year. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. Okay. Senator Howell, we're going to skip a bill. Okay. Senator Obenshain.
Madam Chairman, members of the committee, I hope I have two quick and easy bills. People on this side aren't going to like them except Senator Spruill, who's concerned about fairness. People on this side are going to like them. But Governor vetoed them last year. There were 2 of my 5 vetoes last year. And I'm optimistic that with the new administration, there's a new result. There may be a definition of somebody trying to do the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result, but I'm here anyway. And Senate Bill 521 is a bill that you saw last year, deals with investigation and reports by local electoral boards of those jurisdictions in which there are more registered voters than there are voting age adults. There ought to be some explanation of that. Most recent numbers is that I think that there is a report, anecdotal, that there may be 90,000 more statewide registered voters than voting age adults. I scratch my head. It's either because of a problem with fraud, or maybe it's a problem with purging our voting rolls and making sure that our voting rolls are current and accurate. Either way,
Mr. Chairman.
we all look at it. So that's what this bill does.
Mr.
Simple.
Mr. Chairman, could it also be they didn't count the citizens properly?
Sure. Could be. Maybe we're giving too much money to the Institute for Public Policy in Charlottesville.
Maybe.
I don't know. If they're not counting right, maybe.
Madam Chair.
Senator Eben.
I just wanted to ask Senator Obenshain, I wasn't quite clear. You said how many thousand more people were registered than adult voting age population?
Anecdotally, I've had it reported to me that there are 90,000 more. There are 15 localities where the number of voting, where the number of registered voters exceeds 95% of the total of the voting age adult population in those localities. 8 localities where the number of registered voters are greater than 100% of the voting age adults, which you might be interested, includes Arlington and Alexandria, and also includes James City County, interestingly.
Madam Chair, just to follow up, I just wanted to ask the Senator, when you said anecdotally, who was making the anecdotes?
That I can't recall for those. I think it was, yeah, I can't recall.
Because, follow up, Madam Chair, I mean, I would think it would be pretty easy to check these things out if we do them year after year. But the other piece is, I don't know that the Weldon Cooper Center is always right. I know when they estimated Arlington's population as going down a few years ago, Senator Barker had kind of taken apart the report and really dug deep and had reasons why we thought it was erroneous. And last and final question, Madam Chair, which is in the form of a question.
Senator Eben.
Isn't it right that a lot of times the rolls have people who are inactive voters, who are not, who are, you know, who we think are on their way off the roll, but are you counting the inactive voters as people, the whole total, or just the active voters?
Yeah, you see, if there are more than 100% of the voting age adults who are registered voters, there's a problem whether it includes inactive voters or not. If those inactive voters have died or have moved to another state, we have good ways of keeping track of that and ought to be doing it. This doesn't require a single person to be taken off of the voter rolls at all. If we have people who are, if we're not maintaining control of our voter rolls in Virginia, I mean, that's a problem. I believe in free, open, and fair elections. It's not either or, it is all three. And we as Republicans, Democrats, blacks, and whites, we ought to make sure that we're protecting the integrity of the vote for everybody, because if it's not protected, it undermines and diminishes the value of each one of our votes.
Mr. Chairman?
Senator Edwards.
Has there ever been a situation where there are more votes actually cast than there were people of voting age?
I don't know.
I mean, that's the issue, isn't it? I mean, that would be a problem.
No, that is certainly a problem. I would submit that this is a problem, too.
Okay, is there anybody in the audience who wishes to speak in favor of the bill?
And I would ask anybody who wants to speak in favor of it to forbear. They're welcome to do it, but I would ask in the interest of time that.
Okay. Is there anybody who wishes to speak in opposition to the bill?
They're free.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Okay.
Madam Chair, I move to report the bill. Second.
Okay. Bill's properly before us. The motion's been made and properly seconded to report Senate Bill 521. All in favor, please vote aye.
Ayes 8, no 6.
Okay. Bill reports.
Second bill is, falls in the same category, free, open, and fair elections. It was also vetoed last year, and it was an impressive total, I have to say. And Senate Bill 523, Senator Edwards and I have talked for many years about voter ID, and I want to make sure that that guy who's jogging to the polls doesn't get turned away just because he left his wallet in his other tracksuit. And if that's happened, and we've got a better way of making sure that we protect the vote, I want to do it. And this, I think, is the way we can do that. We collect through the Department of Motor Vehicles every every driver's license holder's photograph, and we have that in a digital form that we can easily port into the electronic poll books. And this bill passed last year. It would be my hope that this is going to be a very successful program, and I would love to repeal the terms of the existing voter ID. And I think that this is a good, neat, easy way to do it. It doesn't even permit, my understanding, and it was amended last year to make sure that it did not permit poll workers to turn away a voter because of the image not matching, but it is basically a step in the direction of replacement of voter ID. And if we port it in and find that it's successful, I would hope we'd continue to move in that direction. So with that, Madam Chair, I would hope that it would be the pleasure of the committee to report and re-refer this bill to the Committee on Finance.
Okay. Is there anybody who wishes to speak in favor of the bill?
Again,
You have the same request?
Anybody who wants to speak in opposition, I think
Okay. Okay. Is anybody who wishes to speak in opposition to the bill? Please come forward.
Good afternoon.
Welcome.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair and members. I'm Katie Boyle with the Virginia Association of Counties, and we're not opposed to the bill. We would just respectfully ask that if the General Assembly moves forward with this, that the funding associated with the replacement of the laptops also move forward. I understand that the Senator is pursuing a budget amendment, and so just because, without that funding, this would be a mandate on locality. So we appreciate your consideration.
Okay. Thank you.
Madam Chairman.
Okay.
Madam Chairman.
Yes,
I'm sorry.
All right.
I'll wait.
We'll hear from you and then from Senator Cosgrove. Thank you.
Mike Polychrones with the Virginia Municipal League. I just concur with my colleague with the VACO that whatever funding is available would be assisted with the state, not solely borne by the locality.
Great. Thank you. Okay, Senator Cosgrove.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I have a motion. That is to report the bill and re-refer to Finance.
Okay. Motion has been made and seconded to report Senate Bill 523 and re-refer to Finance. All in favor, please vote aye. And the bill passes.
Ayes 8, no 6.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Senator Robinchain. Okay, next on the list I have in front of me is Senator Wexton. Is she here? Okay. Then I have Senator Peterson. No, dude, you're it. You are it.
Unless you want to call one of the audience up. All righty. Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the Senate Committee. This is Senate, let me take my glass, Senate Bill 10. And this has to do with prohibited contributions from public service corporations. And let me begin by saying this is not really a reform bill or a politics bill. It's really a health care bill. I'm concerned about the health of people that have to sign hundreds of checks election cycle after election cycle, and the possible effects, rotator cuff, fibromyalgia, things like that might take effect. And with that in mind, I think it's important to do something that we can relieve some of this stress and also perhaps at the same time more effectively represent our constituents. And let me speak specifically to public service corporations. They are, of course, as you know, public monopolies that are chartered by the state. They have a charter from the state. Because of that, the people that do business with them, whether you're a small business, whether you're a residential customer, you have no other option but to do business with this company, this for-profit company. These for-profit companies make donations to assembly members and then come in and seek laws for their own benefit, which, of course, they have every reason to do. Now, this became more salient after 2015 when we passed a bill that has been known as the rate freeze. That bill ended up basically transferring several hundred million dollars in wealth from ratepayers to the profits, the shareholders of these companies. And I had a problem with that. I spoke about that. I brought legislation. Legislation was not successful. I recognize that happens. But I felt like one of the root causes why my legislation was not successful, why we passed these underlying bills, was money had corrupted the process. I'm not going to be shy about that. I'll say that. I mentioned in a town hall meeting earlier, actually in 2017, that I was bringing this bill. It remains the only time, and I've been in public office 20 years, that I got a standing ovation. And I think it was important. I bring that to you today. I don't expect this bill to pass. If it did, frankly, I don't know what to even say at my next town hall, because that was like my best line. But I will say, until you take the money from public service corporations out of this body, you will continue to get flawed legislation like the rate freeze. You will. And so it's important for me to bring this bill forward. I didn't bring any witnesses. Senator Spruill, I'm not lobbying you. I don't have time. I got 4 kids and 8 employees. But I'm here today to tell you that I think this is an important issue, and I appreciate your consideration. And if you could poke holes in this bill saying that there are ways to get around it, you are absolutely correct. Absolutely correct. I will also say that, are there First Amendment issues? I'm sure probably someone's going to bring that argument up. Say we have limits on contributions in every state as well as at the federal level. We had someone who just ran for governor talking about prohibiting all corporate contributions, okay? I'm not looking to do that. I am looking at prohibiting contributions from this class of companies. So having said all that, I have not mentioned any names or any corporate names, but I'm here.
It's a mystery, obviously. It's a mystery.
Absolutely. I'm here, and I
Okay.
appreciate any questions you have.
Madam Chairman.
Is there, okay.
Madam
let's see.
Chairman.
Senator Cosgrove.
I appreciate the health part of this that Senator Peterson brought in, but I'm surprised that he didn't want to talk to the governor about having to sign so many restoration of rights at the same time, probably much more than the checks that were written.
You got to get your own jokes, but
Okay, well, I just thought, yeah. Madam Chairman, certainly we've been talking about this bill, and I'm sure Senator Peterson has the very best of intentions with this, but it'd be my motion to PBI.
Before we get to your motion, there was a request to speak here. Senator Edwards, was that you?
First Amendment issue. I don't think there's a First Amendment issue with regard to public service corporation or any organization like a corporation making contributions. The courts have upheld those. It's not a First Amendment issue, I don't believe. But the political action committees are typically consist of individuals that form to create a political action committee. They may be employees of a certain public service corporation, many of them are, but is there a First Amendment issue there? I think there is. No, I don't know.
I don't think so, because federal law puts limits on donations by PACs. So if they put a limit on a donation.
But this says, shall solicitor accept a contribution, any contribution, not a limitation like $5,000 or something like that.
You know what?
Madam Chair.
I will represent this law pro bono, and we'll find out.
Madam Chair.
Senator Reeves.
Madam Chair, I know I'm sitting in P&E and non-court, so I would just make the following comment, and then I would request Senator Cosgrove's motion. But I would just tell Senator Pearson, thank you for bringing this up, because, or at least your statement, because I think it has brought greater awareness to the issue that you actually are underlining, and I think there'll be some action with regard to that. And we probably wouldn't be in this position to even start talking about it unless you took a sledgehammer to some of us and made us open our eyes and really understand some of those issues. And we often hear bills, and a lot of these things are very complicated. And you know, I'm not an attorney. I play one on courts of justice, and I have to rely on my colleagues who are. And it's nice to have people that stand at that dais and give you the honest truth. And I appreciate Senator Peterson for you doing that and bringing that forward today.
Thank you, sir.
Senator Evan.
Before we vote, I did want to make more of a statement than a question. Senator Peterson knows that I have the same position as he does on the rate freeze that we dealt with a few years ago. But I think this is just, the larger issue is campaign reform, campaign contribution, campaign finance reform. And we might say that, you know, this allows employees of public service utilities to have an inordinate influence. But what about any other industry from corrupting the process? I think large contributions are the problem, not contributions from one industry. I don't like industries, certain kinds of lenders or people who have industries with certain health effects, them participating in an inordinate way in the process. but I can't support singling out one industry and saying that your industry can't participate. And this is not a popular position I'm going to take in my district, but I'm going to oppose the bill.
Okay, so we have a motion before us. It's been properly seconded. All in favor of, and the motion I believe was to PBI. All in favor of passing the bill by indefinitely, please vote aye.
I changed Senator Deeds' vote.
It's not closed yet. Don't close it.
Yes. Yeah. Do you need to clear it, Hobie? Okay. We're going to just revote. Please revote.
Ayes 12, noes 1.
Thank you
Okay.
very much.
Thank you, Senator Peterson. Okay. Next on our list, is that it? And Senator Howell had one, but she had to go to a subcommittee, so we're going to take hers up next week. And Meg, is that it? We don't have anything else on the docket? Oh, sorry, Senator Peak, I thought we did. Yeah. All right, we do have more, because I thought I had more on my list. Okay, Senator Peak, Senate Bill 331. That's okay.
No, she'll come back to legislative committee. What's your, which number, which group is it on? Your dance. No, she couldn't get the rights. Either these two haven't come up.
Okay, Senator Peak.
Thank you, Madam Chair and members of the committee. Senate Bill 331 is the same bill that we passed out of this committee last year, passed through the Senate last year, and was vetoed by the government. It's a simple requirement that when somebody's registering, that the registrar confirm the voter information with the Social Security number to confirm that the person who's registering to vote is an actual United States citizen and Virginia resident. Very simple to make sure that people who are voting in our elections are entitled to vote in our elections. I have Clarabelle Wheeler who would speak on behalf, but I'm going to ask her to pass unless there are any questions from the from the panel.
Is there anybody else in the audience? I see that there is a real live registrar. I saw that. His back was turned, and he's very busy back there. Is there anybody in the audience who wishes to speak to Senate Bill 331 on Social Security?
Go ahead, Clarabelle, please.
Briefly.
Very briefly, this is a bill that would prevent what happened in Harrisonburg, which was adjudicated in court, in which a young man decided to make up names, make up Social Security numbers. There are many, and this was discussed in the P&E conference that y'all held graciously in 2016, in which the registrars said openly that there are many imaginary people registered to vote, imaginary Social Security numbers and imaginary names. By having the Social Security Administration verify Social Security numbers, names, and dates of birth, we know that the people who are registered in Virginia are real, live people who live in Virginia, whose names, birth date, and Social Security numbers all match. And this can be done in batch form to the Social Security Administration. I've spoken with people at that administration. I've spoken with people in other states. And this is a very valid way to assure that we have real Virginians voting in our elections.
Madam Chair?
Okay, thank you. Yes, Senator Edwards.
Wasn't this gentleman in Harrisonburg convicted in federal court?
He was.
And this law wasn't in effect then, so you don't need it, right?
The reason he was caught and brought to trial was because the registrar in Harrisonburg was alert and recognized the name of someone she knew to be deceased and started looking through the third-party registrations that this gentleman had presented and found them. So if it had not been for an alert registrar, he'd have gotten away with it.
Madam Chairman.
Senator Peak.
Madam Chairman, and to answer Senator Edwards, yeah, they were registered. This guy was charged with the crime. That didn't alter the fact that these people were registered. It wasn't found out till later. So it is needed. They would have found out right away that he was registering false people. They would not have been registered. These folks were actually registered to vote in our elections.
Senator Reeves.
Madam Chair, it doesn't really have a lot to do with this specific bill, but at the appropriate time, I would ask Dr. Wheeler if she wouldn't mind yielding a couple of questions for me in general on some issues that we took up at your special committee hearing this last year about some machines and stuff. With that, I would make the motion to pass.
Let me just ask really quickly, is there anybody else in the audience who wishes to speak on this bill?
Mr. Chairman.
Any other discussion? Okay.
What's the fiscal impact on this? Is this going to finance? Because it looks to me like it'd be pretty expensive to do this.
I do not have we don't have a fiscal impact, Senator Edwards.
Was there one last year?
Wasn't put in
I don't-
last year, I don't believe.
It was not referred to. It was not referred to finance last year.
Madam Chair?
Senator Eben?
Yeah, for Ms. Wheeler, you referred to on the rolls there being many imaginary Social Security numbers and many imaginary names. Have you got a list of those, or do you know what the deal is, where they came from?
If we can't match with the Social Security numbers through the Social Security Administration, we have no idea how great an impact this has on elections in Virginia and how diluted our rolls are. I can tell you that federal law, as I'm sure you're all familiar with, the National Voter Registration Act, says, quote, that each state shall maintain accurate and current voter registration lists. And this would allow Virginia to be completely, well, not completely, but it's certainly somewhat more compliant, because we would know whether the names on our lists are indeed real live people with real valid Social Security numbers. Senator, I agree with you. We don't know how many there are.
Madam Chair, just two follow-ups, because you had said there were
Senator
many.
Eben.
Ms. Wheeler, you said there were many, and now you're saying we don't know. And I don't want to belabor the point, but I thought you said there were many, and now you're saying we don't know. But my real question after that was, in order to commit, to have an effect on the system, not that I'm condoning anyone registering illegally or filling out someone else's form, wouldn't you have to have lots of people vote with these fake names and fake IDs now, that you have to present these photo IDs in order to impact an election, actually?
Most people who deal with elections and election law across the country will tell you that the major problem in maintaining free, fair, and legal elections is the registration of people to vote. Once you're registered to vote in any locality, you're entitled to vote.
Well, that's
so
clear.
If you register people who don't exist or who are not using their valid Social Security, then they are incorrectly registered to vote. And this brings up suppose you're trying to send someone information, a voter. You need to change their district in redistricting. If you don't have an accurate name, birth date, and social for their address, you may not be able, the registrar and the Department of Elections may be unable to contact them to tell them they're now in a different district or their polling place has moved. This is another means by which we can use to make accurate our records so that our voters do get the information that they should have before Election Day. It also can be done very inexpensively. This is a batch, push the button, all the names go to the Social Security.
I think I get the mechanics. If I could, I was going to ask one more question, which is, how many of the 50 states are doing this right now?
I can't answer that.
Do we know of any?
But I will look.
Okay.
I'll get back to you.
Do you know of any?
I don't know the number, so I'm not going to make a guess.
Madam Chairman?
Thank you.
But I'll check.
Yes, Senator Cosgrove.
I got my speaking button on, so.
Oh, I'm sorry, Senator.
It's okay.
Senator Cosgrove.
Thank you. Two things. Number one, Senator Eben just asked a question about, do you have to have a lot of these to impact a vote? Well, I would send his attention to Newport News. It could be one. Secondly, Senator Edwards brought up the point that the person in Harrisonburg was tried in federal court. Well, we're a sovereign state. Let's take care of our own mess with Virginia law, as far as I'm concerned. And I would, if the motion has not been made, then I would make the motion to report this bill.
Okay, the motion's been made and properly seconded to report Senate Bill 331.
I have a question, actually, another question.
Senator Edwards.
Does anybody know, has anybody's voted without having their own, the false ID, false or incorrect Social Security number? Has that ever happened?
Uh,
Yeah, actually voted?
Senator, you both are asking the right question. You can't prove a negative.
Well,
You can't, if you don't know that someone's social security number is not right, you don't know it's not right.
Madam
And the
Chair,
only way to know is to check it with the Social Security Administration.
Madam Chair,
Senator Edwards.
you usually pass legislation to correct a real problem, not an imaginary problem.
Well, I guess we'll have to agree to disagree. I think there is a problem. And we can clear it up and we can make it
Madam
accurate.
Chair.
Yeah. Okay, the
Due to
motion's-
the impending time, I'll call
Yeah,
the
the
previous
motion's
question.
properly been made and seconded to report Senate Bill 331. All in favor, please vote aye.
Ayes 8, noes 6.
Okay, the bill reports. We have one last bill, and that's Senator Dance's bill. Yeah, if you will direct your attention to Senate Bill 331 is peak. No, that's wrong. Senate Bill 452. It's okay.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Senate Bill 452 rescinds Senate Bill 1256 that was put into law in 2013, a law that unnecessarily increased voter identification requirements by requiring photo ID in order to vote. This bill, 452, mitigates this restrictive standard by permitting officers of election to accept a voter's non-photo ID. Senate Bill 1256 makes it more difficult for eligible Virginians to vote. That's the bill of 2013. Today, Virginians who meet the voting eligibility requirements and have registered to vote and appear at the proper polling location on Election Day may be disenfranchised solely because they do not have an acceptable form of photo ID. Repealing this law would make it easier for eligible Virginians to vote, and additionally would make the job of administering elections simpler, because right now we're asking registrars to be like the DMV, that they have to make sure that they take pictures or whatever, and that we were asking citizens who find it difficult and maybe ask for extended hours at times to be able to vote, to now have to make a special trip to the registrar's office to get this particular picture to be able to vote. So again, it's disenfranchising people, putting more restrictions on them when all they want to do is vote for the person of their choice. Discrimination today is more subtle than the visible methods used in 1965. But it's still alive, and we still find ways to prevent people from accessing their rights to vote. So by passing my little simple bill of 452, just removing those added restrictions that we have put on the people of Virginia is all I'm asking for. Voters without a driver's license or one of the other photo IDs permitted under the state are therefore required to go through additional process, traveling to the local registrar's office at their expense to acquire a state-identified or issued ID. This bill will remove all those laws and erect what appears to be a discriminatory barriers to voting without sufficient reason to justify the restrictions. And I know you all love this bill, and you're going to do the right thing and vote for it. So I could give you so much more. But I do have people that have come to express their opinions, which are similar to mine, and I don't need the registrar to come and give her opinion. I've got plenty of people that I want to speak for me, unless y'all want to. Is Felix still here? The Department of Elections? The Department of Elections is in support of this bill. Thank you. Elizabeth Howard? Thank you. They are in support of this bill. All I want is the people that's in support of this bill to speak. Stand or whatever. They support this good bill. I want y'all to see them. Everybody else can stay in their seats, but I'd like your.
She did.
I'm asking for your support on this bill.
Thank you all for being here.
Madam Chair,
Yes, Senator
I have a
Edwards.
Question. A lot of people in nursing homes or retirement communities, assisted living facilities who've given up their automobile and don't drive anymore. They don't necessarily keep a photo ID card in their pocket, do they?
No, they don't have a federal ID. I have family members there, right?
And
They
so
have to give up their rights to vote because they can't meet all these conditions.
if they don't have it and they're, as a practical matter, it makes it more difficult for them to vote, right?
Yes. And that's one of the few things that can let them know that they're still alive because they're confined, they're away from families, they're like they have to have people to do everything for them. But one right they have that they could exercise would be their right to vote.
And they're being denied that currently, is that right?
Yes.
Is there anybody in the audience who wishes to speak in opposition to the bill?
Madam Chair, question. I have a question.
Okay,
I don't need her to speak, so if you want to.
Senator Peake.
Madam Chair, Senator Dance, question. If you request an absentee ballot, if someone is in a nursing home or incapacitated at their home and they request an absentee ballot, do they have to show a voter ID, photo ID? Thank you.
Madam Chair?
Senator Evan.
Just to follow on Senator Peake's line of questioning, what if that person who is an assisted living person wanted to go downstairs, if the polling place is downstairs, or take the little bus they provide to go to the polling place? Would they have to show an ID when they get there?
Yes.
So if this bill doesn't pass, if they don't have an ID card or don't have a utility bill, or I'm sorry, if it does pass, they could use a utility bill or even their voter registration document is from the way I read it. And I wanted to make the point that Senator Dance, it's been my experience in my district that a lot of people, when they're going to vote, they say, oh, I'm just going to bring my voter registration card. I can't find it. Or I'm going to bring it with me. And I say to them, well, make sure you bring your photo ID also. So a lot of people have the impression that a voter identification card with their mail, that little form you're sent in the mail, it's not really a durable card, but with the information about your precinct and your districts, they seem to think that's enough. And this bill would just codify that, the impression that these voters have. Is that right?
Yes.
Thank you.
I've been thinking about trying to find some reason to vote for this bill, but
Keep working on it.
I'm exhausted trying to come up with a reason, and I know, you know, in the world we live in today, you know, to sign anything, any public document, a notary is going to ask for your ID. They're going to look at it's required. It's required by statute because of fraud. When you go stay in a motel room, they're going to want a photo ID, or they're not going to rent you a room. When you come to my law firm, I'm going to require a photo ID. Or
I'm not coming to your law firm.
I understand. I'm just saying it's everywhere you go.
Not everywhere.
Except for McDonald's or Hardee's to get a burger. You've got to have a photo ID. So, I mean, I like the patron a lot, but with all due respect, I'm going to have to move the PBI to bill.
Okay, motion's been made and properly seconded to pass the bill by indefinitely. All in favor? Substitute motion, Senator Edwards to report. Substitute motion's been made and properly seconded to report. Senate Bill 452, all in favor, please vote aye.
I can vote right here. Thank you very much.
Ayes 6, noes 8.
Okay, the bill fails to report.
Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Dance. Pardon. Okay, I'm sorry. We had a substitute motion, so we need to go back to the original PBI motion. The original motion was to PBI. That was made and properly seconded. All in favor of passing the bill by indefinitely, please vote aye. Opposed. Just reverse the vote. Okay.
Ayes 8, noes 6.
Okay. We had one left. That was Senator Wexton, but she's, I think, presenting a bill, so we're going to conclude the docket for today, and the committee will rise. Thank you, everybody.